how I made $26,005.83 in just 10 hours wholesaling real estate. What's up, guys? I'm Dan Cohan, and in this video, I'm going to be doing a deal breakdown of how I just made over $26,000 in one deal wholesaling real estate and how you can too. And we're going to get right into it. Guys, before that, tune in all the way to the end, and we're going to be doing an awesome giveaway to a lucky commenter, but you have to stay till the end of the video to learn what that is. So guys, let's get right into it. So $26,000 is a lot of money. No way you slice it. Never going to turn away a $26,000 deal. And, this is pretty cool, guys. This is the biggest wholesale deal that I've ever done and collected it in one transaction. And it wasn't even that spectacular of a deal, guys. And so let me break this down, how I did this and how you can too. With your wholesaling and real estate investment business. So guys, how did I make $26,000? Well, it's not rocket science, and there's no guru course you have to buy to figure it out. But guys, I will preface that anything I say is informational, not financial advice. And with that, guys, it's going to take some work to do deals like this. I'm not going to say that it's super easy and it's a cakewalk. It does take work. It takes skill. And it is a learning curve. And, there's been a lot of culmination of things to get to this point. But with that, there are deals like this out there to be had for you and your business. So how do we get this deal? Everyone always wants to know, where did you get the deal? What magic lead source and way did you get it? Well, it's, pretty straightforward. So we do a lot of text blasting and cold calling here in my business. And this deal came from a text lead. So it was actually from a foreclosure. So we pulled a government list. The foreclosures come out, on a daily basis in every county, depending on who's in foreclosure, and they originate, at the county level. Essentially, what a foreclosure is the bank essentially suing. It is a form of lawsuit that the homeowner, and they're trying to recoup their investment. And so all these lawsuits and the foreclosures have to be published publicly in a local newspaper or publication. And those, you don't have to go and buy the physical newspaper. Those are available online. Just look at your particular state and county. Typically, there's some online syndicator that will show you those newspapers and show you those foreclosure listings. And that's all that these list pulling sites are doing, is simply aggregating that data and then pulling those lists for you, so that it's just easier for you. But all that data is available publicly and typically for free. But we got it from a list. So we found a foreclosure, texted her. We sent out a batch text of, formatted text messages. She responded saying she was interested in selling her house. And so I immediately called her on the phone and, established interest. You guys want to use the 4 pillars, which is, your price, your motivation, your condition, and time frame. Now with foreclosures, you get a lot of those kind of baked in. You have your motivation is typically foreclosure in a foreclosure, although some people don't know they're being foreclosed. But in this case, I knew that she had motivation. She was foreclosing. She had a tight time frame because obviously, with a foreclosure, once they post, it's only going to be maybe a month or so before they actually auction off the property. And then, condition, I didn't know that, and I did not know price. But for my precursory, I went on MLS, and there's a lot of tools like Batch and stuff that you can find this information. I figured out what her payoff was, and quickly looked up some comps and stuff, and she wasn't underwater, and I could buy it at a deep discount and sell it to an end buyer while paying off her mortgage. So I was like, okay, we can make this deal happen. And so I went and called her and got a meeting with her to go check out the house and then figure out the condition of the house. So that's what I did, guys. Text message to a call and then to an appointment right away. So that only took about a day. So we texted her, called her immediately when she responded, and then had an appointment, I believe, for that evening or perhaps the next evening. But very fast, guys. That's one thing that you have to know when wholesaling or any kind of real estate deals. Speed is the absolute key, especially in my market. It is very competitive. There are a lot of other wholesalers and investors out there working these deals. There's not that many foreclosures relatively to the amount of buyers there are out there. And so really speed is honestly probably the biggest thing that differentiates, one guy from the other. And that's basically you getting in front of them first, solving their problem first, building rapport, showing up and being there, in person if possible, and really building that relationship. Because honestly, that's probably the biggest thing that's going to um, determine whether you get a deal or not is simply being the first one that solves their problem. Because once somebody has a solution, especially if they're somebody in foreclosure or maybe they don't have a lot of options, they're not gonna be shopping you a lot, right? And that's it depends. Sometimes they will try to shop you, but like if somebody comes in and they can solve the person's problem, they're probably gonna go with that and then be like, hey, if somebody else comes along, I've already got my problem fixed. I don't want to mess with anything else. I just want to get over this, right? And so, being first, getting on these deals first. Do not be afraid to call and text. Guys, the worst that's going to happen is they're just going to say no, not interested, or I'm already working with somebody. And even if they say those things, if you know that they're in foreclosure, you can push through those objections because a lot of people want to bury their head in the sand and they don't want to acknowledge the reality. And sometimes even if they tell you no, you can still push on them a little harder and get them to work with you. So anyway, back to the story with this gal. We went and checked out her house. Really good shape. It almost needed next to nothing. Definitely needed a little bit of cosmetic rehabbing, but very little to get it to the market value. And so what we did is typically when you're negotiating, you want to ask them what they want for the house, right? And so I was thinking we needed to pay. We could probably this house is probably worth 275 to 300. Nice fixed up on the market. We probably needed to get it for 180, 190 to then sell it for 200 to an end buyer, and then they could put some minor repairs into it and sell it. And then but what I asked her is you always want to ask them what they want to get first, because if they offer a lower price than what you were thinking, that's great for you, and if they offer higher, no problem. What you need to get it for. You can work them down from there. So she's, I was like, hey, what do you want to get? I'd like to buy the house. And she's like, well, I need 170 to go ahead and pay off my mortgage and get out of this deal. And so I was like, well, that's great. I didn't tell her this, but that was lower than, what I was anticipating paying. And so I was like, yep, let's do it 170. I want to buy it. Thought about it for a second and then, decided to go ahead and do that. And then I was like, hey, I'll write it up. I had the contract in my hand to go ahead and write that deal up. And, most people, I would always have a contract with you in hand to go ahead and sign the deal right there. Because again, guys, speed is key. Like there are so many other wholesalers that are after these deals, literally as soon as they come out, people are calling them, people are knocking on their door. If I was to hesitate there and not get that deal signed, if I was to wait a day or two, odds are somebody else is going to get the deal because they were faster than me. So you want to get that deal under contract and in your control as fast as humanly possible, because one day or even a few hours can be the difference between you getting the deal and losing the deal. For example, I've got a deal under contract right now, and we are in the closing stages of the deal. But with that, I went over to this house. I have to move this guy because that's his problem. He needs to get his stuff moved. And so I went over there in the morning and was looking at his stuff to move. I left, came back to move his stuff, and in the couple hours between me being there and me leaving, two different people had put door hangers and sticky notes on the door offering to buy this guy's house, right? So these are the kind of things that are happening. People are getting bombarded with phone calls, bombarded with texts, bombarded with people knocking their doors and trying to buy their house, that you have to get things locked up immediately. Do not hesitate, because the worst, you can always cancel, which I don't ever recommend. I always recommend, offering a price where you can close. But with that, guys, get that deal under contract and go from there. So she didn't want to sign a contract right there. She wanted to talk with somebody first. I was like, okay, that's fine. I pushed a little bit for that, but I was like, I backed off, and then I was like, okay, I'll write up a contract and send it to you to DocuSign right afterwards. So I went home immediately before I went to bed, wrote up this simple FSBO contract, that's assignable, and then sent it to her. And then the next morning, she signed the contract and we were under contract, good to go. So then the next day, I already had a buyer kind of lined up for this property. I'd already and figured out buy that under contract. I went to this, would you buy it for 200 grand? And he's like, yeah, that sounds good. Let me go over, check it out. And then I can give you a final answer. So I called the seller and be like, hey, can we get an appointment? I want to get some contractors, my partner's over there to check the house out so I can plan out my renovations. And she's like, yep, that sounds good. So we go over there. I run him through the house real quick. And again, a competent buyer will know very quickly with just a, few 5-minute walkthrough of the house, what it's going to cost to fix and what they can pay. And, he's a very competent buyer, does hundreds of transactions. So went through and, we got in the car, sat down, and, he's like, yep, looks good. Handshake deal. We're going to buy it. And then I, went home and sent him the assignment to sign, got it signed. And then now we're under contract both on the buy side and on the sell side. So now we've created a $30,000 spread for myself as a wholesaler, and we're good to go. So the only thing that really took a long time on this one is the payoff from the lender. Took a long time to get and what a payoff is the essentially, so they're in foreclosure, right? So they have to pay off the mortgage. Now, thankfully, this seller wasn't really underwater, but we had to pay it off. So getting that information from the bank can take a long time. So in this case, it took like 2 or 3 weeks to get that information, which I think is ridiculous. But this seller wasn't really jacking around. They were very on it. Probably one of the better sellers to work with. And so I think the bank was just really, not wanting to give this information out for whatever reason. And so, it took a little while, but finally we did get that payoff, and we closed the deal, and then boom, made, so we had to adjust it a little bit because her payoff ended up coming out a little higher than 170. It was like 173 and change. And so I had to do that, pay her property taxes as well. And so netted $26,000 off that deal after it was all said and done. So that's cash in my pocket, pure, profit for the most part. But yeah, that's how we did it, guys. So, with that, take that and get out there, guys. I think the most important thing with wholesaling and finding deals is really focusing on one set of actions and just doing them for a long time. Because I see so many wholesalers, especially new ones, that, get into the business, they try it for a month, and then they give up because they, didn't get $10,000 assignments, and they give up and go do something else, right? And like I've been working on this for 5-6 months, and only really starting now, to really get in the groove where I feel really comfortable and we're really getting some stuff working. But guys, I had to make hundreds, if not thousands, of calls to get that deal. And then, once we got it, it's a whole nother process to get it closed. But guys, don't get discouraged. If you commit to something and you work on it for a long time, at minimum 6 months to a year, you will get some deals if you just hit it for hard enough for long enough, and you'll get better, and then it'll get easier, and you'll start making lots of money, guys. So with that giveaway, guys, we're going to be giving away a 1-hour consulting call, which is normally $200 to one of the commenters in the first 24 hours of this video. So if you want to talk to me for an hour about anything real estate, go ahead and drop a comment, guys, about what you're going to do to get your first wholesale deal down below. With that, guys, check out the next video, like and subscribe to the channel. I'm Dan Cohan, and I'll see you in the next chapter.